Paolo, your thoughts on an exciting Champions League campaign ahead? Just how excited are you and the players?
Hi. Yeah, it's always exciting. I think we live for these moments and for this competition. As a kid, I always wanted to see the Champions League matches, and it's really nice to be here today.
The manager has added a lot of quality. What impact do you hope Celtic can make in this Champions League campaign compared to previous ones?
It's a different format, so we know that I think we have more chances now. It's like a league, and could be good for us. But yeah, step by step, game by game, and let's see what we can achieve.
Just on the quality within the squad, especially within that midfield, we've seen Arne Engels brought in as well. Give us an insight into what it's like being a midfielder at Celtic at the moment, surrounded by so many quality players. How big is the competition, and added to that, how much does it help grow all the players?
I think it's really good for us and for me, for the midfield competition. It's always good, and I think the team needs that. We can grow faster than without the competition, so it's good for the team. We have lots of games, so it will be nice to have very good quality in that positions.
Just finally from me, how determined then are you to show the manager that you have the quality to nail down a starting 11 spot within that midfield?
I always wanted to do that. I will continue to work hard, even I'm started or even if I'm in the bench. But yeah, like you said, we have competition with each other, and we are here to win our spot in the team.
Paolo, you experienced this competition last season. How much of a factor was it in your decision to come back here permanently to play in competitions like this one?
Yeah, I knew Celtic was going to play the Champions League, and it's good for me to play and to experience these nights. For me, I think it's the best competition in the sport, so I'm very happy that I can play.
How good a place is this Celtic team in at the moment when you look at the form and the results? Talk to us about just how confident everyone feels going into the Champions League.
Yeah, we start very good this season. Even the pre-season away in America, they did very good. We are in a very good moment, and we are really happy with this, and we are really excited to go on the pitch tomorrow.
Paolo, do you see any reason why this Celtic squad, the way it's growing, can't compete at this level and actually do well?
I think we can compete in this level. We play football, they play football, so it's two teams against each other. So we are in a good moment, and we can compete in all competitions that we are into.
And for you as a player on field, what is the difference in these Champions League nights? How big is the step up in quality, in your opinion?
I think Champions League is the best teams in Europe, so we are playing against the best, so we have to be the best too. And you know, big teams in that competitions are always difficult to play. But yeah, I always think that we are here to compete and to play all the games.
Getting through to the knockout stages of the Champions League has always been seen as a huge achievement for Scottish sides, a bonus if they manage to do it. With the new format, does it seem like a proper realistic goal for the players this season?
I think it will be always difficult. We are here to dream too, so we will do as much as we can to achieve that knockout stage. we will do our best, and we will try already tomorrow to make a step forward to do that.
On paper, this would be seen as the easiest game of the 8 that Celtic have throughout this league phase. Does that put more pressure on making sure that you get all 3 points tomorrow night to kick off the campaign well, give yourself the best possible chance of getting through?
I don't see the game as the most easier, because we will not face easier games in this competition, so we have to do our jobs, and I think if we do well we can get out with the 3 points, but we need to focus on the game and respect the opponent.
That's it. You just pass it back and work our way through, please. Thank you.
Hi Paolo. First of all, how important was it for you last season to get minutes in games in the Champions League? Coming into this season, do you feel like it's improved you as a player but made you more mature going back into these games?
Aye. Yeah, for sure. It's always a good experience to live these moments and to play these games. It's really fantastic. It's a dream coming true as a kid. So yeah, I think I'm a little bit mature now. I'm still young, but yeah, looking forward to live that again.
Just going back on the point about the first game being at home against, say, the easiest team on paper, do you feel like it is very important that Celtic pick up the 3 points on Wednesday to give themselves the best chance of qualifying, or do you think if we don't win the game it's not the biggest of deals?
No, we have 8 games, so one cannot be the huge difference, but like I said, we are here to do our best, and we want to win the game and get the 3 points, and are a step closer to the objectives. So, but yeah, I don't think if we lose or draw this game, it will be like a really difference in the final phase of the games. So.
Paolo, you featured in all 6 Champions League games last season. You started 2 games. What are your personal ambitions for this season's campaign?
It was nice. I want to have more minutes. We have 2 more games, so will be nice to play 2 more games in this competition. I think it will be very good for me and for the team. But yeah, I want to play more games and more minutes.
And you've spoken about the changing nature of this season's Champions League campaign. As a player, we constantly hear about the gruelling nature of scheduling for players. Do you prefer the new format, or do you prefer the traditional 6 group stage games?
For me, as a young player, I want to play more games as I can. So I think is good for me, is good for the team. It's a different level, the Champions League. So I'm very exciting because we have this opportunity here, and it's very good for me to have that.
Hi Paolo, Colin from the Cynic here. European football's obviously got a big place in the hearts of Celtic fans, and my grandparents were in Lisbon in 1967, and we're all there seems to be a real determination to make a meaningful impact this year in Europe. But obviously we've got a job to do domestically. Can you give us an insight into how the gaffer's handling that balance between domestic and European football, even though it's not started quite yet, but just a wee thought on that?
Aye. We know that we are in Celtic, and Celtic is a club that have to win all games. So we are in Champions League, so we have to we go to the pitch to win the game and to do our best. So yeah, really exciting to be there and do the things well and get out with the 3 points. We know that in the league domestically we have to win all the games, and we see the same thing about the Champions League. But we know that it's another level, and it's more difficult.
I love to hear it, because we'd love to see you win all the games of the Champions League. And just personally, how are you dealing with just blocking out the noise, this noise that's coming at you right now about the pressure about tomorrow? Do you have any personal way of dealing with that yourself?
I don't feel pressure to play football, so I'm really glad that I can play football at this stage. So I see that as a really good thing for me, and yeah, I'm comfortable with that, and I'm very happy to be here tomorrow.
Love to hear it. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Brendan, just sum up your feelings heading into another Champions League campaign.
Yeah, clearly we're very excited and looking forward to it. It's a special competition. Obviously, this club has got a great and rich history in. So yeah, we're excited by it.
It's obviously it's a new format. There's an element of the unknown or difference compared to what we've seen previously. How do you feel about that now that the games are upon us?
Yeah, I think everyone probably did feel that, especially going into the draw and the expectation. Well, what was that going to be like? And I think that everyone would agree that it was good. So I'm hoping that the actual competition itself will be similar. So I think it's fantastic over the different types of teams and games that we have. The club going to some of these teams for the first time, and the supporters getting the chance to travel to some great cities. But from a football perspective, it's a great opportunity for us to test our qualities against some of the best teams, and that's always the big challenge from a coaching and managing perspective.
I suppose what it can mean is, unlike other seasons, you have a Champions League game here where your big favourites, perhaps more akin to, you know, the Scottish Premiership fixture or a Europa League fixture. Does that change anything in your mindset?
Not really. I think it's normal in terms of it's not. You know, we come into every game and respect every single opponent that will play, and obviously there'll be a narrative around this game, which I totally get. But I look at Bratislava, and I only have to go through my own experiences here. They've had 4 games, so 4 ties, 8 games to actually get to this stage, and so the amount of work and fight and spirit they needed to have to reach this level, you can never ever underestimate that. So for some it might not be fashionable, you know, there might be other teams with bigger histories and bigger clubs, but for us, we know that it's a team we have to really respect, but we also know that we're playing at home. We're in a really good mood, playing well, intense, being consistent, and we just want to take that and bring that energy to the stands, and hopefully we can have a really good night, but we know we have to really work hard.
Just finally, in a more general sense, some high-profile players have spoken today, Rodri amongst them, about the format and more games and the burden that puts on players and so on. I wonder how you feel about that from a manager's perspective. Is it an understandable concern?
Yeah, I think it's something that I've mentioned before. I think that if I look to where football may be heading, you're maybe looking at a 12-month season. Really, you know, it used to be that you had that sort of summer break, and that was near enough assured for a player perspective. But I think in particular the top players as well. And we look at our own selves in our own country. We'll hopefully go deep in the competitions. So you get all of those games plus the international games, and yeah, I totally understand where it's coming from, but it's also he's not moaning about games. It's about the quality. It's about the quality of games, and of course, when the first thing that goes is technical ability, when you're tired and fatigued, and what we always want is the best product for the supporters, and so every football player loves to play, they love to train. But they want to produce quality and be able to be at the best as often as they can be. So it's a natural concern. I totally get it.
In terms of this Champions League campaign, Brendan, and looking back to last season, what's the biggest thing you think you learned about your squad, yourself, last season that you can bring into this new formatted campaign?
I think it was just, listen, if you look at the nuts and bolts of it, people will say you only got 4 points and then they'll cry about that, and then the season before and the season before. For me, I look at it, I thought last year it was decisive moments, probably apart from the game away in Madrid where we lost the man early on in the game and we got punished by a team that got to the quarter-final. And they made real good use of playing against 10 men. I think the other games, I thought we showed up well in. And we could have won the Lazio game. Should never have lost it. So that's a learning. Feyenoord at home, we were good. We won the game. Away in Feyenoord, we were right in the game, had the best opportunities early on. Then we concede just before half time, and then we obviously lose 2 men in the game. So that was a challenge. So I think there was a lot to learning in it. But for me, looking at it, I'm thinking if we could strengthen the squad, then we could take another step and be closer, and we've been able to do that. So I think that we've seen that through pre-season. We used the games against Man City and Chelsea as Champions League preparation games, and how we set the team up and how we tried to play and work. So I think we arrive into it, hopefully having learned from last season and knowing that at this level it is about not just the details, the really small details that make the difference. And because every team you play, and like the questions, everyone, the narrative about Bratislava and whatever else, every team comes here thinks they're a big team. When you're a champion of your own country, whatever that country is, then you believe that you're a really good team, and that's why you play in the Champions League. So most teams come with confidence, and the confidence to play, and that's what you always have to respect. But for us, it's still about us and how we play and our work, and I think that hopefully we can show that over the 8 games.
You mentioned the point about quality. You've brought many teams into this Champions League campaigns as Celtic manager. In terms of this group of players that you have now, how does this compare to previous squads that you've had, both in terms of quality, readiness for the competition and potential to go further?
Well, there's absolutely no doubt this feels like the most ready I've been as a Celtic manager coming into a Champions League campaign, naturally because of the qualification phase and the doubt around all of that, and then trying to then get players in late on the back of that. Last season coming in, trying to find out about players and managing them through that, and then seeing them in the competition. But having had a year under my belt back here and seeing all the players and being able to improve a lot of the areas that I want, there's still areas that we want to improve in, but certainly the readiness is a great word. I think we that feeling of arriving at this first game will have been the best place that probably I've been in since I've been here.
Just finally, you mentioned that narrative a couple of times about Celtic being the favourites. Whether you agree with that narrative or not, does it add a bit of pressure though that there is that narrative building that this is the best chance to get 3 points so far and kick on with the campaign?
Not really. No. I think outside of the club maybe, but certainly not within the football. We cope with pressure every week. I think that's what being a Celtic player and in particular a Celtic manager is. So there's no change in that aspect. And then the key thing, and of course, is my job then to regulate that pressure for the squad and allow them to go and express themselves and play. And that's what we've been doing. We've been thought about what we want to achieve from the summer. We now go into this first game. We're playing at home. We want to start off with a really good performance and get 3 points, and we'll be bringing that energy to the game and intensity to hopefully make that happen. But the pressures are part of the job here.
Good.
Brendan, with that squad you have now and the readiness you now feel, am I right in thinking this is where you want to be judged now, this elite European level in terms of the next stage of your evolution? You personally, but the squad as well.
But you judge me however you want to judge me. You know, I've managed big games before, and believe it or not, I've actually won big games. So I have. But for us as a football club, we want to make that progress from participating to to being competitive, and that's. But listen, whether it's domestic or European level, you're always judged. You're getting judged every day you train. You know, every time you train, every time you play at Celtic, it's a real test of your character and mentality. So this is a competition clearly we want to do well in, and we want to grow in. And but I feel we're in a really good place to do that.
And do you feel that about the club as a whole as well? Because your recent financial statement looks pretty healthy, and it looks like you got the backing that you were looking for in terms of the calibre of player and the level of player that you wanted.
Yeah, the club were great, absolutely brilliant. Over the course of the pre-season, we had to push. We wanted to bring in the right calibre of player, because it's not just about a player. I've always said that. There's lots of players that we can bring here. What's important is to bring the right player that's going to improve this squad. You've seen the early season form, you know, without really the players that we've brought in. The rhythm of the team and the quality of the team has been really, really good. The level of performance has been consistent and aggressive and everything that I'd want. But I always want more, and I want to bring that there into a European stage, and for that then you need that calibre of player. So the club have backed me great with that, and going forward we want to add a few more as well that will help evolve that as well. But currently, as I say here, we're in a really good place. You know, I come into the stadium, I look around the stadium, it's really exciting, the work that's gone on behind the scenes here and making this amazing place to come and work in and play football in and support. So yeah, on and off the pitch, we're in a really good place.
On that backing and the fees spent on some of the players this summer, do you feel that now comes with added expectation going into this European stage?
Not one bit, no. Not one bit. I don't set the fees. The player doesn't set the fee. It's what clubs or sometimes the situation means that we have to pay. But we've spent money, but we've brought a lot of money in. We brought more in. So it's there's no pressure. The only pressure is the football pressure. The football pressure for us to want to do well and perform well.
I think the expectation as well with this new format is that 8 or 9 points should be good enough to see the club go into the top 24, into the knockout stage. How big would it feel to kick off with 3 points and have 7 games remaining after that? Yeah,
that would be great. That'd be a great first step for us. As I said, there are 8 brilliant games, intense games, great competition. So we, of course, clearly would want to do that. And obviously having a back-to-back Champions League victories. You know, we had our last game here at Feyenoord where we win, and then to open up and win again would be a real good feeling and put everyone in a good mood, and then we can carry that through into the other games.
Brendan used to refer under the old format to maybe a target of finishing third European football after Christmas. Is it an equivalent in this format, you think?
I think our intention firstly is to reach the playoff. I think if you look at the teams that go through, then over the course of the 8 games, I think you're really looking to reach that playoff phase. That would certainly be the objective that I would set first and foremost, and then from there you can then gauge it. So, but yeah, the points total that you mentioned, the destination where we want to get to, certainly the first protocol would be that.
Just wanted to ask as well, interesting selection dilemma in midfield where you have Bernardo, you have Engels, you have Hatate, you have McGregor. Good selection dilemma, I would imagine.
Brilliant. It's absolutely what I would want, because I know that I can't use 3 players the whole season. It's not about just one player. The midfield is about the 3, but it's also about having the numbers there that when you take one off or you have to recover, when you can put one on, it doesn't change. If you look at the level that Paulo Bernardo's been at since he's come back, he's now really settled back in. He now feels like he's a Celtic player. Having come back late to us, trained ever so well, comes on some games, came into the Rangers game was outstanding. But that's how it'll work over the course of the season. You know, there's not a starting 11. You know, it's really, really important for us how we play and the energy we play. Our subs are absolutely vital for us. That's what can give us an advantage. But there's a cost to how we play with the intensity and the work and everything. So that means our bench has to be strong, and that's the readiness that we talk about. That makes me feel in a really good place that we have that bench. So the three that are starting, and the players know this from my perspective, everyone wants to start a game, of course they do, but over the course of the season a lot of them will do that at various times, and sometimes they'll be on the bench to come into the game. So it will just depend on the game that we play. Craig.
Brendan, apologies if I've got my statistics wrong, but I think it's almost exactly 10 years to the day since you had your first taste of the group stages when you were at Liverpool. Can you give us an insight into who the man was then and what you've learned, the manager that you were then, how much you've learned, how much you've taken on board from it, and how it's changed? Give us an idea of that.
It's not getting any easier, that's for sure. Listen, it's an elite competition. I obviously didn't have too many games at Liverpool in the Champions League. Most of my Champions League history has been with Celtic. So I think in terms of, from a managing perspective, I've clearly developed a lot since that. 39, 40 years of age, and 51 now, and had a lot more games under my belt, much more experience, and played against a lot of the big teams and big competitions around the world. So I think it's a level that's a real challenging level, and for teams like ourselves, we have to be at our absolutely maximum to benefit, especially how the game has grown and developed in the financial side over the last numbers of years. But what I always believe in, that here is a club that if we can get our squad to a really competitive level, what we can do here at home can make it a really special place to be, and still we can be really competitive at this level, and that's what I've always wanted us to be. There's been a lot of occasions where, and then no fault of the players, because the players here and all my times here, I look to the first period, have given me absolutely everything, but the level, we just weren't at that level. That's the reality of it. But players were good players, but maybe our depth wasn't quite there. But I look at us now as a club progressing, looking to look forward. You see where the club has supported us fantastic in the summer, and we want to be able to do that again in some other areas, because we want to keep growing. We don't want just the benchmark to be domestic. We want to improve and do well in Europe. So it's an amazing level to be involved in. I love the challenge. I relish the challenge. The players do. We love playing at it, and that's why you work all year, to win your league, to win your title, to get to nights like tomorrow night, which will be an amazing feeling.
As a coach, Brendan, do you still get challenges at this kind of level, and also maybe see things that you learn from and take into your own kind of management coaching going forward?
It's not so much that. No, you see it more in players. You see how top players have that belief. I think that's what I've always said. These for Champions League really is belief games. These are the games where I've been fortunate enough in my career to work with world-class players and really top-level players in the European game, and one of the biggest attributes is that belief mechanism they have. They believe they should be there, and this is what we're trying to develop here: players that can consistently believe that not just participation is enough, but to go and compete. And you can absolutely do that, but in order to want more, you have to give more, and that's what we aim to do. So but there's always learning. There's learning. It doesn't matter if it's Bratislava or Borussia Dortmund or St Johnstone. I will always learn, and I will be curious enough to respect all the players, managers that I'm up against, and analyse and assess where I can be better.
Brendan, the club obviously published very positive financial results yesterday, but how much will doing well in the Champions League, will progressing in the Champions League help you when it comes to strengthening the squad further going forward, to bringing in the players that get the team to where you want it to be?
Listen, we have a model here which we all understand, and we can push that boat out at times to be able to help us improve. you know. So, and the club have shown that they've done that, which is absolutely brilliant. I think that, like I say, it's great for the club. We all want to invest in the team. The board do, I do. The players want the challenge of competition in the squad, and I think that by competing and participating at this level and doing well at this level, as well as domestically, always improves that opportunity to improve the squad.
Hi Brendan.
Hi.
Just going back on a question earlier, you spoke about discipline. Is it important this year that the discipline is better than last year's campaign? Obviously, away to Feyenoord, 2 red cards, and then going to Madrid away, an early red card, and also Palma picking up 2 bookings over the course of the games and get suspended. And it ended up being for the Lazio game that we started with 2 wingers that we probably wouldn't have started with in the first place. Is that important this year that the discipline is better?
It's a great question, eh? But as you put it like that, absolutely. But it is. I think it's a change in officiating when you get to this level as well. I think every player will tell you from the domestic British game to go into Europe is different. Some of those, the sendings off, especially Dyson's, and that was very harsh, I felt. But these are the things that you have to be cute enough at the level to understand. But listen, you're absolutely right. Discipline in anything is important, because if you don't have that, I don't think it was reckless or anything in those sendings off. More just lack of experience, really, and being unlucky. So, but it's definitely it's a really good point, something that we would have to be mindful of.
Last year, before we played Atletico Madrid at Celtic Park, I asked you the question if you thought that Atletico Madrid would have more of the ball, and does that change the approach? And you came back and said you thought that Celtic would have more of the ball, which was the case. So I'm going to ask the opposite now. Do you think Celtic will have more of the ball tonight, or tomorrow night, sorry, and will that affect how we sort of set up?
And I'm going to tell you this year that you watch the game and you'll find out. Yeah, I think it's one. Listen, I think at this level for us, clearly we dominate a lot of our domestic games. That's the plan. We go into our European games with the same plan. However, you always have to have it in balance. You know that, especially you're going to come up against a certain level of team where sometimes you're going to have you will be pushed back as much as you want the ball, as much as you demand it. Sometimes that quality will drive you back, but you can be comfortable in that balance, and I think that's something that we talked about and agreed on over the course of pre-season. And like I said, in those games against Chelsea and Man City when we played, I think we seen all the attacking threats, we seen how we could play, but we also seen that you have to as well defend at times, and that's okay. That's elite level football. So that's something that I'm looking forward to seeing, that balance between the pressing, the aggression, wanting the ball, everything, and then when you get pushed back in a game, being able to comfortably, as can be, sit and defend well, and then show another side to your game, which is important.
Just finally from me, obviously Celtic, a lot when they set up with a high press, it's Kyogo and one of the wingers. Against Rangers, it changed to Kyogo and it was Hatate that had moved forward, and the 2 wingers kind of dropped and made a 4 in the middle. Can we expect to see something similar to that tomorrow, possibly? Or was that just a one-time thing, or does it just depend on the opposition?
100%, it's the opposition. We will sometimes press with a 9 and a high 10. So sometimes you see that, whether it's Rio Hatate or Paulo Bernardo or someone who's up there, depending on how the opposition play out from the back, it might be with 1 striker and the 2 wingers up, which keeps your 3 midfield players behind. So you're always assessing that. It's one of the big things I look at along with the coaches. We're very detailed in terms of we want to attack the game and want to do all those great things in the game that gets people excited. But what also gets me excited is the pressing in the game and that side of it. And for that you have to be you have to have that setup that allows you to press and press well. So yeah, it can change from game to game. Sometimes we start the game very quickly and get away ourselves when we have the ball. Other teams maybe look to set up the build-up play. that gives us a chance to press. So, but yeah, game to game is whether it's a 3 or a 2 or whether we let the first pass go and press on the second one. It's a good question.
Brendan, there seems to be a palpable shift in terms of excitement from supporters this season through the fantastic start to the league campaign, or the fact there's so many winnable games. How much are you and your players relishing the fact that tomorrow night there's such an opportunity there to get 3 points, something that Celtic haven't done in an opening Champions League fixture in the last 12 games?
Yeah, it's absolutely. I'm so looking forward to it, just coming in there and seeing all the signs up. It makes it so exciting. It's a brilliant opportunity for us, and we know that in particular in this campaign over the course of the 8 games, the home games will be absolutely vital for us. So bringing that energy from the pitch to encourage our support, which we know is unrivaled. I think everyone loves the possibility to come here, but we know that we have to excite the supporters on the field. So that opportunity of course, makes us really look forward to the game.
And I'm also interested to know how you prepared tactically for this game. We always hear the famous cliche that you prepare for the next game. Did you work on Bratislava for a number of weeks, or did you only start your preparation post-Hearts?
No, we started preparation before post-Hearts, so the analysis of the game, we would take the opportunity, myself and the coaching staff, to have a look at that. Obviously our scouting team and Peter Houston and Ross and the guys would have looked really, really closely at Bratislava a number of times, and of course then because you're working it through. Remember, they were in a playoff situation, so it was only really when they got to the last games against Midtjylland that you knew then that was who you were going to be playing, either one of the teams. But no, we've went into great detail in terms of assessing. But the reality is that they're a team that play 4-2-3-1. It's not rocket science. It's one where we understand the system that they play. We play against it some weeks at home. You know how they defend with one up and one in behind. Sometimes it's 2 pressing. So all these things are. It's important not to complicate it for the players either, because it's really not complicated. The Champions League, you don't. It's not as if you have to do anything special. It's an amazing competition. It's a special competition, but it's still football. And of course, there's players at the level that can hurt you. But we want to be able to play our way, and we prepare to play how we want to, and put the stress onto the other team and push to bring our game. And then when we have to defend, we can do that. But that all is a part of the analysis, and making sure that everything is covered, knowing that we can then give the players the confidence to arrive into tomorrow night. And from that first whistle, we are right on it to get the 3 points.
Hi Brendan, Colin from the Cynic here. Like most Celtic fans, I spent most of the summer kind of insulating myself for the moment Matt O'Reilly left the club, and I was talking myself into him staying, but now we seem to have an embarrassment of riches. Paulo's performance against Rangers, Arnie Eggles and his performance against Hearts. But Arnie seems to be quite similar to Matt O'Reilly in terms of like box crashing, and there's other similarities, but what traits do you think he brings that are different? For example, like the fact that he's right-footed, does that change the dynamics?
No, not really. I think why did we bring him in? I felt that if you go back to the first time I spoke when I came here, I'd said that I wanted to bring a team of power, strength, power and speed, creativity and unpredictability, and especially coming into European football, where those traits you need in your team. So whenever we were looking for that, that's when Arne came to our attention, because his power, his athleticism. He was playing in a team in Augsburg, which was obviously one of the not one of the top teams, you would say, in the Bundesliga. But to play in the Bundesliga, you need to have a level of athleticism and running power, and he has all of that. So that was helpful for us. You then look at him, is he technically good enough to come in and play? Because you can have good players, but to come in and adapt into the technical way that we play, does he have that? Yes, he does. Tactically, I've worked with a number of Belgian players, and the ones I've always worked with, tactically very astute. They love the game, they love talking the game. Some of the best players in the world I've ever spoken to on a tactics board, even as young players, they can talk about the game. Brilliant. So his athleticism is there, good technique, tactically good, but with bits to learn, and mentally you don't arrive and play that number of games in the Bundesliga as a young player in one of the top leagues if you're not that mental strength. So I felt it was that their need was great. Matt leaving was of course we miss him. He's an amazing guy in the year that I worked with him, and we wish him all the very, very best. But I always feel there's an opportunity then, and that's what Celtic will always be about. You're going to lose your players because the players will come here, and if they develop how you think they can, then they're going to then go, and the riches that are available for them will go beyond us. And probably I can actually accept that a lot greater now this time than what I did the first time I was here. But the key thing is the next one. It's making sure everything's in place to get the next one, rather than thinking that you may always be able to hang on to that one. And that's where Arna comes in, Paolo comes in. So now we have, like you say, with Luke as well, we've got a real strong midfield, because for me that's always been a key part of my teams, that midfield three, that's the engine room. And we've got good flexibility there, we've got different qualities that can really help us.
And taking that into Champions League context, the speed of transitions is quite often key in these games, and I think we've been seeing the team work very hard off the ball to handle these transitions domestically recently. Is that something that you've been working on specifically recently with an eye on the Champions League?
No, I think if you go back to my first time here, if you go back to my teams throughout my career, that element of the game has always been important. When my teams have been at their best, both offensive and defensive transition has been key traits in the best teams that I've ever had and worked with and developed. But in particular, I felt that over the course of the summer we had the agreement that for us to improve in all these aspects of, like what you say, the transitions in the game, especially at this level, the counter pressing is vital. And I've always said, for me, and that's what I explained to the players, our counter pressing is like a playmaker for us. You know, it's the time that when the game breaks down, if you can get onto it, it can set you up. You know, our recent, what was it, third goal against Rangers was a great example of that. The game breaks down, we're straight onto it, we then get the ball back, Callum scores. So that side of it, it's not worked on any more than the attacking side. For me, it's I've said it before, it's like they're like twins really, pressing and passing. And if you can get the two together and work on them well, you become a really, really difficult team to play against, and that's what I want us to be.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Pleasure, thank you.
Okay.